All right, so the first thing we got to make this go a little smoother than the last one is this Quilter's starter kit. And I really only got this for this guy, because it does say that, what do they call these, rotary wheels? Rotary cutter. Would be very, very helpful during this project. It recommended it with the original pattern, and I was just kind of like, I can use scissors, it's fine. And then they came out really choppy because cutting in a circle with scissors isn't the easiest thing. So, rotary wheel. We also got, I also like this because it comes with more pins, and mine are getting very worn out from going through the paper and tape repeatedly. As well as a couple of sewing needles, because I always need those, and they come in a cute little vial, and I like them. As well as a cutting mat that I probably won't use because it's only that big, and the dress is like that big. So I did get a bigger cutting mat that you guys will probably see later. I'm just not going to pull it out because I have everything set up on it already. Next, we have this boy. So this is 11 this boy. So this is 11 yards of cotton poly spandex. So it's very nice and soft. It has a nice, like, almost yoga pants feel to it, maybe. It feels very soft, very nice. And it does have a nice bit of stretch to it as well. So I think that'll help with shaping a little bit, make it nice and good like that. But this will be for the base of the dress. I'm definitely not going to need 11 yards, but I have a couple more projects in the near future that I also want in black, like everything else that I own. And I figured just buying a whole bunch of it at one time, because I found this online for like $4 a yard on sale with some coupons. I couldn't pass it up. So 11 yards of this big boy. Next, for all of the ruffles and the frills on the neckline and all of that, I found this beauty. So this is actual lace trim fabric, because you can tell, you can see in the actual patterning here where it has these sections to just cut out the trim. I found this at the thrift store for, I think, like $6, $9, but there's 6 yards. 6 yards of this just beautiful floral lace trim that I will put on literally everything. Because I have an unhealthy obsession with putting frilly lace on everything that I own, especially sleeves, which we'll also do. We will also be putting giant lace frills on the giant bat sleeves. So that's super exciting. I don't think there is anywhere on earth that I could get this much lace trim for $9. Like, I have to do a little bit of work cutting it out here, but it is just phenomenal. Really excited to have found this. I found this when we were getting the sheets for the mock-ups, just like 2 feet away. So next we got some interfacing for the collar to make that nice Peter Pan collar a little stiffer. So nothing too exciting, but needed for the construction of it. And finally, I got these super cute little opal silver buttons. I also got these super cute opal silver buttons. I figured we could put those down the front. Probably 3. I was wanting ones a little bit bigger than this, but we found these at Walmart. So I didn't have to go to Joann's for anything. And that just makes it a win. Also, they are just adorable. Like, look at those guys. Can we get that to focus? Just adorable. I don't think I could find something any better than this at Joann's anyway. Unless they had this, but a little bigger. And I think that is everything. I'm also debating, stop. I'm also debating whether or not I want to put buttons on the sleeves on the outside to kind of control them if I want to wear this anywhere. But I'm kind of starting to think that maybe ties would be better, because then I can just and like tighten them all around my wrist, but still have, well, wrist or elbow or wherever I wanted, but still have giant poofy sleeves. I'm thinking that might be the route I go. But, oh, stop it. There we go. I'm also thinking I was thinking of doing buttons. Stop. I was thinking of doing buttons. I think I might do laces instead, just to pull and tie, because I think that might be easier to just kind of cinch around the waist versus trying to button it, and I think I'll probably just do laces with them. But that's fine, that'll make it easier to attach the lace, actually. It'll hide that seam. So, we're gonna go ahead and get started on this. I got another little stand that'll hopefully make doing the cutting and sewing and stitching a little easier to film. So let's hope it turns out a little better than the last one did. So, we'll see you guys now. So what I'm doing first is I'm cutting out all of my pattern pieces and then stitching together the front panel and the back panels to make 2 big panels versus 4 tiny ones. Then I take the 2 panels and sew up the side seams, and then we're going to even out the sleeve hole to make sure that it's a nice round hole, since we didn't really even it out during the pattern making process. So when I tried this on, I realized that it was still a little too big at the waist. So what I did is I just brought in the bottom so that it kind of curved in more rather than curving out where it did, and I just did this by sewing a straight line down when I took it back off, as well as pinning the darts into place and then stitching them. Good morning. Alright, so last night we finished the bodice. There might be a little more tweaking. I'm debating whether I want to bring in the center seam just a little bit more, because it's kind of loose in the lower half of the bodice, but it's kind of why when I brought in the side seams as well on this, because it was way too baggy there. It was very much a that shape where it needed to be a that shape. Which is fine, it didn't take very long, just brought the stitches basically from the curve that they were on to straight down. So, no big deal there. I'm gonna wait until we have the skirt on though to see about doing that front seam. We also got the darts sewn. Those turned out okay. I mean, they're not perfect, because I've never really done darts before in anything intentionally. I think I did darts in a shirt, the first shirt that I ever draped, like 5 years ago. And that was only because I cut the fabric wrong and didn't want to recut it. And so I put a dart in to like make a bunch of darts in to like make it fit. And it looked awful, but that is where we are at now. All we really have to do today is just get the front and back skirts all stitched together. And then we will attach that to the bodice. I'm kind of holding off on the sleeves until last because I need to sew the kind of pocket around the wrist so that once it's done it can be just cinched up. But I only have gray thread and that would be very, very visible. So I think we're just gonna hold off on that until I can get over somewhere and pick up some black thread, and I really should have picked it up when I picked up everything else, but I didn't, so. And then possibly start working on the collar. It's not a difficult project to do. I mean, it's literally like 3 small pieces, but I'm waiting to do it near the end because I do have to do a lace trim on it, and I'm kind of holding off on doing the lace until later because it is going to be the bane of my existence. I love it. It's really cute. I love the way lace looks and the effect it gives, and it's just beautiful. I just hate it. I hate working with it. So I think that is it for today's update, and I will see you guys over there. So the first thing I did was I took the 2 panels of the skirt, the front skirt and the back skirt, stitched them together and then attached them to the bodice. And then after that I started working on the sleeve, which all I did was cut out the sleeve ruffle, which I hadn't cut out yet, and attach it to the upper sleeve, the sleeve cap that attached to the little hole. Next I made the sleeve channel so I could tighten the sleeve down, and I did this by taking the ruffle and laying it down on the fabric and then cutting about a 2-inch long piece of fabric from the edge so it had the same dimensions as the sleeve, so it wouldn't just be a straight line trying to lay around a very curved area. And then I took it and folded it in half and sewed the seam, then flipped it inside out and ironed it for about 3 years. And then we were done with that. So what I did next is I cut out a strip of lace fabric from my giant sheet of lace trim that I found at the thrift store. And then I made the ruffle for the sleeve ruff. And I did this by just taking a fork and folding the lace around it to make kind of overlapping boxes. And I used the fork to make sure that I could keep them even. And then I sewed those together and then attached it to the edge of the sleeves. Good morning. So it has been 5 days since I last did anything with this project. The last thing that we did do was get these sleeves done, which are glorious. I can't even fit them all on screen. Glorious. And 99% of that was putting this stupid tubing in to tighten them. So the next time I do this, I will either find a different method or just not do it at all. The original didn't have it, but just because of how giant these things are, I figured it would be good to be able to tighten them down. We'll see how that looks once it's done. The next thing that we need to get done is the collar, and I'll probably do 2 layers of interfacing in that just because the white bed sheet that I'm going to be using for it, which is the same as the sleeves on the second mock-up, is very, very thin, and I want the collar to be pretty stiff and kind of hold its shape. So we're gonna probably do 2 layers of interfacing for the collar, and then, or do I do a ruff on the collar at all? I don't think it necessarily needs it. And I'm gonna have a whole lot of ruffling to do for the bottom of the dress. So I might just not add ruffles to the collar at all. I guess we'll see. So let's get started. So what I did for the collar is I laid the bed sheet that I used out, folded in half, and then the interfacing layer folded in half, so that I had 2 layers of interfacing and 2 layers of fabric, and then just pinned the fabric on and cut it out. So for making the collar, I wanted to make sure that the interfacing was on the inside, so what I did is I took the fabric and put it on, sandwiched between 2 sheets of interfacing, so that when I flipped it the right way out, all of the interfacing would be on the inside and the fabric would be on the outside. And then I just went ahead and sewed a very small seam allowanced seam all around the edge, except for the edge that was going to be against the neck, so I could flip it out. Next, I went through and cut off all of the seam allowance from the edges to make sure that it wouldn't be bulky, and then I flipped it right side out and ironed it. So first I stitched all the collar pieces together to make that nice circle, and then I stitched it to the dress with the collar on the inside, right side out. So wrong side to right side, so that I could flip it out and iron it in place so that the seam would be hidden on the inside of the dress. Good morning. Alright, so we are nearing the end of this project. And today we are going to attach the sleeves, and depending on how long that takes, we might actually go ahead and trim the bottom to make it the right shape and start on the ruffle for the bottom. And then after that, all that's left to do is a little bit of hand sewing on the sleeves where the lace is, and to add the ribbon around the edges of the sleeves so we can tighten it, and maybe finishing the seams inside. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that yet. I haven't really decided, so we will see what happens. So let's do this. Next we went ahead and attached the sleeves, and we did this by turning the sleeve right side out, then shoving it into the armhole, so that when you stitch that seam and pull it all the way out, you have all of your seams on the same side. So we're gonna go ahead and even out the hem now, and I did this by throwing it on my mannequin because I wanted to make sure that the front hem and the back hem were the same round, which wouldn't happen if I were to have done it flat on the ground, because then the front hem while I was wearing it would be much lower than the back hem. Good morning. Alright, it has been a couple days since doing anything, but this is the last day to get anything done because I have to shoot the reveal tomorrow. Luckily, we are almost done. I went ahead off camera and just pinned the buttons where they are going to go. And now it is just a whole hecking ton of sewing. So here I am at 1:30 in the morning. And I have to have this done before I go to bed, and I need to sleep before noon. So we're probably looking about 6 hours here. This is gonna be fun. We will get through this. The only thing that's left is to sew those in place, sew up the sleeves here, which could be cute to put a button there, but it would get in the way of the string. And I want to do this by hand because the little channel here I didn't want to sew close, so I'm just going to do that by hand, and I want to make sure that the lace is attached. And then seam rip my basting stitch off of the lace here, and then we are done. So I think I can get this done in a couple hours. So I will see you guys. I didn't film a whole bunch, but I first attached the buttons, and then I sewed up the gap in the sleeves, and then ran the trim through the channel. And finally, I tied knots at the end of the trim rope that I'm using for inside those channels, and then carefully hand-stitched a loop around each one of the sides to make sure that the trim could not fall through. Good morning. She's done. I really, really love how this project turned out. I think it turned out super pretty, and I love these sleeves so much. If I were to do this project again, I would probably reshape the bodice area because I'm not a huge fan of these darts. Like, I know mine are uneven because I'm not a seamstress in any way. Everything I know comes from being self-taught and kind of just messing around with the fabric until it does what I want it to. But I would probably reshape the bodice and probably give it like a princess seam instead of doing the darts. Like, it looks fine. It's not bad, but just I think it'd look better that way. There's mistakes. Like, I sewed over a little bit here, so there's like a little flap on the skirt and where the bodice meets, where it's not like a line like it should. There's just a little flap over. And there are some loose parts of the lace, and like there are its problems, but I really love her so much. And honestly, wearing it kind of feels like wearing just a big old blanket. Because this fabric is supposed to be for like sportswear or something, so I'm pretty sure it's meant to be tight, like leggings, used for something like that, but using it in like this dress is just so comfy. Like, it is so nice to wear. I think I wore this for like 4 hours after the reveal, 4 or 5 hours just straight on a cold March Oregon day. I would just kind of pull my knees up into the skirt, and it was perfect. I also can't get over the fun Dracula thing you can do with it. I'm loving that. And I'm actually really pleasantly surprised with how these pleats on the front and back look. I thought it might make it look a little weird to have these here. But no, I think it's fine with a one more good iron because it sat in the car for a couple days. I think this would be absolutely fantastic. Probably gonna go through later and re-seam the darts here because you can see where this one on this side has pulled out, so you can see the white thread that I used here, which I should have just used black thread, but I didn't have any at the time, so it's fine. I'll go back over it like I did with the front seam here when it was starting to show, and it fixed it fine. I have a little bit of room up here, so I'm not super worried about it getting too tight. But yeah, it's done. It's a lot, but worth it. If you liked this video, please like below and maybe consider subscribing, maybe. And I will see you guys next week with a not sewing video. I'm gonna take a break. All right, stay weird. Bye.